Hello Stony Bros. Today we will be doing some Brawl Stars pixel art. I've been inspired by a guy named Brandon James Greer. He's been making some awesome stuff on YouTube and Instagram, and his stuff is really cool. He takes inspiration from other games and also just the pixel art style in general. And I've always loved pixel art. I program my own games and use my own assets, so it's been a necessity for me to kind of master the style. And while I'm nowhere close to quote-unquote mastering the art of pixel art, I wanted to take a stab at a regular pixel art painting, which I haven't done in quite some time, and that Brandon James Greer inspired me to do. And after hearing this music that you hear in the background, I said, who better to do a pixel art representation of than Brawl Stars characters? So that's exactly what I did. We start out here with Colt. I've already done Shelly to the side. I did Shelly previously because I wasn't sure if I would make a video out of it, so I didn't record me doing the Shelly, and I think the Shelly turned out great too. But as you can see, I'm doing the Colt here on the side. I start with a nice shape of his body with the colors that I think work well with him. As you can see, I'm sampling from the actual character reference image, which really doesn't end up working a lot of the times. I have to adjust the color after I pick it from the character anyway, but it is a good thing I did that helped me get an idea of what color I was looking for sure. And here his vest is, when I put that little thing over his vest, his collar. I really like how his collar turns out in the end. It looks great. And I'm really surprised I was able to pack this much detail in such a low resolution area. The actual canvas size is 69 by 49, which is the Perler bead board I will use later to actually create one of these guys in real life with Perler beads. The actual character height is around 50-ish pixels high. I didn't count exactly. I altered the color a bit on Colt because I didn't want it to be as dark as it was in the reference image that I sampled it from. I move his arms to make it more like the position he is in the reference image, kind of holding one gun up a little bit higher than the other. I also raised his eyebrow a bit to give him that little spunky style, and kind of altered his face so that his mouth was closer to his nose, and I thought that ended up looking a lot better. I wasn't really sure how to do his chin thingy there, that little X, like I think Buzz Lightyear has it too. And I ended up going with just 2 pixels, kind of like a dimple at the bottom there. A little bit of shading. We see this. I try to use as few colors as possible overall in the image, and I'm honestly sampling more colors from the Shelly I've already done than the actual reference image that I'm using to pattern Colt after. And on to the pistols. Now, these gave me some trouble. I had a lot of trial and error on these guys, and quite frankly, my first iteration of them, this one right here, didn't look that bad. Actually, I might have even kept those, but I didn't really like the way they were shaped, and I wanted them to be a little longer, have a teeny bit more detail, so I go back in them later and change it. Now, I'm fleshing out the shape of the hair. He has a pretty cool head of hair. It's almost like a helmet, the way it's shaped. And I kind of define the different sections with a little bit of shading. And I add his ears poking out of the side of his hair, definitely defining quality, as well as 2 little pixels to resemble those 2 tiny tick marks in the corner of his eye. kind of like Ash Ketchum's weird little thing on his cheeks. But I thought it would be awesome to represent it in pixel art, even though it's such a small detail. It really adds a lot to the face detail, I think. And here's the gun trial and error. Basically just conceded to having the pistols not be perfectly how I wanted. Honestly, I didn't really know what I wanted. I was just kind of messing around, trying to find something that looked half decent without being terrible. I settled on a design that simultaneously you can see the tip of the gun as well as the revolving part of it. So both sections are defined, and despite both of them not having a ton of detail, it ends up being a pretty good part of the character. And now on to Poco. Poco's pretty cool. I started out by kind of fleshing out his initial design. Brandon James Greer says that in one of his lessons that when you're creating a pixel art, you want to start by defining the smallest characteristic that you want to be recognizable in your character. And I wanted that to be the little heart on Poco's forehead. So it looks a little weird and stretched out now. That's because I want to use the mirroring tool for a lot of my Poco art piece here. It will end up just looking better if both things are the exact same on the side. I have to keep it 2 pixels wide, or else my mirroring tool in Krita, that's the art software I'm using right here, the mirroring tool won't work if I have a 1 pixel wide area. So before I finish this drawing, I squash the Poco in so that his forehead heart looks a lot better in the final product. And I'm fleshing out the hat here, adding a little shading to the bottom. I'm really proud of how the hat turned out, actually, because it's the perfect angle, like exactly the same like the reference image, which I'm pretty proud of. Another thing I had a bit of an issue with were these little notes on his hat, and I really liked them and without a doubt wanted to include them in the piece. And initially I decided to leave 1 pixel out of the corner to kind of denote the curvature, but it looked too spiky for me, so in the end I ended up going with a more blocky design that I think works to the character's advantage. And I am now fleshing out the body a little more. I have the hand on his hips that is perfect for his design. Adding a little bit of detail. I end up to the shirt having like an angled pixel line that denotes his kind of jacket flaps. It's not really noticeable, but it does add a bit of detail to the shirt, which would otherwise be pretty bland. I'm doing the guitar. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to make the strings of this. I ended up going with just a single string down the middle, but I could see it looking pretty good with that, with no strings at all, or maybe a more fleshed out string design. Maybe if I were doing a bit higher resolution, I could take more liberties with the strings, add some more pixels to it, but at this low resolution, a single string was all I could fit in there. His guitar is a bit of a weird shape. It's not a perfect circle, so I couldn't make a perfect pixel circle. But it also wasn't really an oval. It was like a weird egg shape. So it's not in its final stage now, but I kind of work on sculpting it throughout the process. I'm just kind of shading his face with a bit of an orangey color, which looks a lot like the reference image. And you see the squish there. And now he looks a lot better. The heart on his forehead looks a lot more fleshed out. His nose looks perfect, like a perfect triangle. Ah yes, finally. The hat comes to fruition and it's looking okay. And now I'm fleshing out the hand a bit more, adding little details for the fingers and thumb, and the little stripes on his shirt, kind of refining everything at this point. His guitar is still pretty unfinished, so I'm going to go back and edit that. After fleshing out his guitar head up here on the canvas, the little top of his guitar, I plop it on there on the neck of the guitar, and it's looking pretty good. I move the guitar a bit so that it is level with his feet, and draw his hand kind of wrapping around it with his one finger kind of sticking out a little bit and his thumb on the other side. And after finalizing the Poco design, I go in with Perler beads and actually create him in real life. This was a pretty big project, so I didn't have enough beads to do his body in the color I would have liked it to be in. This is a much lighter blue than the pixel art I created on the Krita software, but it ends up working out really well, and the final design is one that I'm really happy with. I kind of break the whole thing in the middle of it when the camera falls on top of the Perler beads, but I fix it back up. And his pants are purple in this one. Again, a little bit of a difference, but it works out. It works out pretty well. Adding the shading to the bottom of his hat, and fleshing out the final few details before this piece is completely finished. By the way, I made sure that all of the designs I did for the Brawl Stars are in fact doable with Perler beads, so if you wanted to, you could actually make all of the brawlers that I created in Perler beads, in Perler bead form, and so that's pretty cool. And as you can see, it's a pretty cool design. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It has a few variations from its pixel art counterpart, most notably the slight color alterations, but overall, I think it turned out pretty great. Now, in honor of Brandon James Greer, I decided to give my pixel art some CRT time. I don't have an actual CRT television, so we're going to have to go with just a regular CRT filter on my video editing software. But I hope that's good enough, and don't worry guys, I'll be out with another Minecraft video soon. I'll also make an update video to the Brawl Stars family tree, because Brawl Stars just announced a few new characters. See you next time, Linkstony Bros. Peace!